You know what the greatest tragedy of all is? It's not trying. That's the fear of failure. It's something I've journeyed with a lot over the course of my life. And it always seems to resurface when I'm at this really critical juncture creatively, or I'm just about to meet a choice point. I can either go this way, I can go that way. It can cause decision fatigue, decision paralysis. It creates a lot of perfectionism, and that's really the root. At least that's one root, because there's many colours of experience of the fear of failure, right? We can all have our own journeys with it. But I feel like this sense of perfectionism, it really underscores a lot of that sense of fear of failure. Because what is the fear of failure? Fear of failure is essentially an avoidance of taking action, because one believes that by applying oneself and putting oneself out there, eventually we're going to fail, we're going to be found out for who we are. It's all kinds of imposter syndrome pieces that come in. And I've really journeyed with that in so many areas of my life. Even though there is a great knowing within that, like, hey, I can do these things which I think I'm good at. I've had enough feedback, I've had enough proof. I've received from other people that my work in this area is good, my work in that area is good. But still, there can be this underlying sense of, well, what if I take that chance? And what if it all blows up in my face? What then? How will I live then? It's these narratives, these negative mental rehearsals are run by our internal programs, are rooted in our traumas from this life, sometimes past lives, but mainly in the developmental stages of life and in early adolescence. When we're really coming into our own and like stepping out into new peer groups, and we're really starting to form the identity that will become part of our young adult self. At least it was for me anyway. We play these negative rehearsals and we gradually become conditioned, depending on life experience, depending on who we're hanging around with, depending on environment, depending on ambitions as well. And we can find ourselves, how do I say this? I'll say it. Crushing ourselves. There's an archetype which can develop, and this is one that I really relate to. I love working with archetypes. They're a really good way. In fact, not a good way, they're a great way to look at one's own patterns, because it allows you to package them into a character, and then that character can have thoughts, feelings, emotions, etc. It's a really great way of doing inner work. And so the archetype that I've come up with for myself to try and work through some of this fear of failure is the Punisher archetype. When I see myself getting to a certain place, there might be this part of me that comes in echoing some of these narratives saying like, nah, you think you're going to do that? You think you're going to do that, Sam? Nah, no you ain't. You ain't going to do that, Sam. Because what if people see you for who you really are? Then what? Then what, Sam? It's a real shadowy archetype, and the Punisher will come in and do everything it can to undermine all of my greater ambitions and all of my greater passions and all of my greater knowingness and belief. These narratives come in and undermine the conscious beliefs that I'm trying to embody. Right, they're going to take me forward, they're going to take me further towards my dreams. And this is where some of the shadow work pieces can be helpful, right? Being aware of one's own belief patterning and the pieces that are surfacing when we're trying to make choices, right? Because we have belief, we have intent, we have choice, action, and embodiment. Sometimes choice and action can be one in the same. Sometimes action can be redundant. Sometimes we can just go straight from choice to embodiment. So let me give you an example, right? So I have a hypothetical belief that I'm not a good writer. I actually do believe I'm a good writer. I'm a professional writer. So I don't believe I'm a good writer, right? So the intentionality that I'm going to bring to my writing is going to be one of, I don't want to engage with it. Maybe I'll put it off. Maybe I don't show it to people. I don't think I can really be rewarded for this. I don't feel like I can make a living from this. Blah, 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 blah. And so the choice is, I've actually wrapped up intentionality and choice there together. So the intentionality is, I won't write, right? That's the intentionality. I'm not going to write because I don't believe I'm good enough. So the choice that follows on from that intention is, I don't do the thing. The choice is avoidance. The action is continued passivity, just continued avoidance. The embodiment could be anything from emptiness, fear, despair, anxiety, unfulfillment, take your pick. It's a hypothetical situation. And so that's an example of how these archetypes can come in and can really sabotage our belief process, which then impacts our intention, choice, action, and embodiment. So how do we resolve that? Well, we really need to sit with ourselves and decide who the person is that we really believe we are, that we truly believe we are, separate of all the conditioning, right? Separate of all the fear of success, the fear of failure, the perfectionism, whatever the pattern is. We need to decide, I am, in this case, I'm a writer, right? I'm going to write. I believe I am that. I'm going to do that. And so I find proof, I create situations to prove that to myself. I engage with it. Even though it might not necessarily be comfortable, even though I might have to push past some difficult emotions to really engage with it, I show up and I do the thing because I'm going to be a writer. I love writing. I want to do it. I want to pursue it. It could be any passion, right? Anything at all. It doesn't even need to be creative. It could be vocational. It could be relational, interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships. Replace writing with whatever works for you in your personal situation right now. What are the pieces, what are the archetypes that are providing the mental chatter that are causing the fear of failure in you right now, in whatever area of life that this is surfacing? Name the program. Then you can begin naming the patterns. Because if you can name the program, you go, oh, this program, it's creating all these perceptions, right? On the cognitive level, this pattern makes me believe this. Then you can name all the behavioral patterns. Oh, this program makes me engage in all these choices and actions. Oh, then it leads to this state of embodiment, this constant state of fear. Oh, wait a minute, I don't want that. Let's reverse engineer this, right? It can go one of two ways. Sometimes we can't always get to the belief level. Sometimes the beliefs that we hold about ourselves are, you ever seen those iceberg diagrams where, I saw recently, right, it's the Breaking Bad iceberg. You've got the top of the iceberg that shows, you've got blah, 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 whatever the plot points are. Then you've got all the stuff that isn't shown in the series. It's actually quite a common thing on YouTube right now, like they do them for lots of different series. You can apply the same concept here. So you've got all of your surface level conscious beliefs about like, I am a good writer, I'm going to go and do this thing, I believe in myself. But then underneath that is where all those subconscious programs, patterns and perceptions lie that we can't always tap into. That's where our, how do I say this? Our deepest beliefs about ourselves are held, in the subconscious. And so we can't always get to that belief level at a standing start. Sometimes we need to engage in quantum healing, get into a deep alpha or deep theta state, deep meditation, do some real deep introspective healing work, and sometimes be held by another person as well to get to those places. So, if we can identify our emotional state and go, oh, when I'm trying to do this thing, I'm in fear. What's the action that led to that fear? Oh, right. The action that led to that fear was avoidance. The sponsoring action is avoidance. All right, the choice. All right, the choice was to not engage with the thing that I love. Wow, okay. What was the intention that led me to that choice? Oh, it's because I didn't think I was good enough. That's actually partially wrapped up in belief. And see, so like there can be a little bit of a crossover between belief and intention, right? So if you look at belief and intent as being the cognitive level, then if you look at choice and action as being the behavioral level, and then you've got embodiment, which is kind of its own thing. Embodiment just is, that's just isness. It's more, you can see it as an emotional state of being. That's the way I view it. We can take our emotional state, in this case fear, reverse engineer it to the belief level, and then really begin sitting with those beliefs. You know, because that's the why of our actions, the why of how we act, right? So in the case of the fear of failure, if we're willing to sit with ourselves enough using meditation and journaling, getting into a deep introspective rhythm, and you know, this isn't going to happen overnight. I just want to be like really real with you right now. Sometimes, oftentimes, this takes a long time, you know. We might get the odd breakthrough here and there where we can, I've said in another video, like the breakthroughs aren't always what we're looking for, but sometimes they are. When we're working on the cognitive level and trying to find those patterns and behavioral pieces, those breakthroughs are actually really useful, right? We find those breakthroughs and then we can begin speaking to them in a new way. We can begin speaking to ourselves in a new way. You know, engaging the mighty I am in the heart and saying, I am great, I am good enough, I am worthy, I am a writer. I am a writer, I believe in myself, I am that I am. I am that I am. You know, again, replace writer with whatever the thing is that you are trying to embody right now. Whatever the skill is, whatever the thing is that you're trying to engage with. Right? The greatest tragedy of all is not trying. Show up for yourself. Believe in yourself. Know that there's a greater version of yourself. And it's dying to be known. It can't wait to be known. It has so much to share with the world. Are you really going to deny the world your greatest gifts? Believe me, there are people out there that are waiting to receive you. It might be difficult to anchor, might be difficult to embody from the state where you're at now. But believe me, there are people out there that are waiting to receive your service, your gifts, your wisdoms, your light, your care, your compassion, whatever the thing is that you have to offer to the world. It's people out there that are waiting to receive your unique flavor, your unique colours and frequencies of experience. The fear of failure is holding you back from that service right now. It's time to step up. It's time to step in. It's time to become more visible. It's time to make courageous choices, to take aligned actions so you can embody a whole new version of yourself.